I am just loving the not, no alarms, no nothing,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
getting up. It's been great. I could get used to this not having alarms and things.
Yeah.
It's great. Oh, God, wait, what day even is it? It's the 9th of January.
Oh.
Ooh, we should probably be back.
Probably, we should probably be back by now.
I'll get Audacity running. You get the microphone.
I'll remember how to say words.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnadale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnadale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. We're back. It's the podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types, have a bit of a catch-up about media we've consumed in the week and do silly voices and skits and have a bit of a giggle together. We're back and working.
We are.
After giving ourselves time to not work for a little bit.
We had some time off.
We had some time off, and now I have
to lies your eye.
I have to make thoughts make sense again. I gotta form opinions now.
Yeah, it's taken a bit.
It's been a little ramp up.
Yeah,
I've had to spin the gears up.
There was that good few days at the start where it was like, should any of this be content? Should I be preparing for some of this to be content? And then that sort of anxiety died down, and then my whole brain fell apart from not the routine.
Yeah. There was a point where there was at least one episode of Podquisition I was meant to record during that time off that I'd forgotten, and so had someone else, and someone else had forgotten and was ill. It was one of those, we all sort of rocked up and were like, we all forgot this, didn't we?
You all forgot it, and then there was a sudden message from the first person to have remembered it 12 minutes after you were usually due to record going, here's a link to start recording.
It's like, it's fine, we're all on sleepy mode, we've all left this life behind for a while, we'll come back later.
Yeah, and then last week we were like, should we do one? It's like, I'm still exhausted from having had a meltdown yesterday, so... just need to let an extra week of reset. But we have a big list of things to talk about.
We do indeed, and we're going to probably start with things we've played, I imagine.
What have you played?
What have I played? Let's bring up the list. It's been a long...
Unroll the scroll.
It's been a long couple of weeks. Well, I can talk about this, which is a relatively a new thing, but that people will be hearing about. I played through the God of War Ragnarok free DLC Valhalla.
Oh, heck.
Which is a roguelike epilogue for God of War Ragnarok, in which Kratos has to fight his way through Valhalla, having emotions occasionally. It's maybe somewhere between 6 and 8 hours to sort of see the main plot of it through. It feels very much like something like Hades in that you do your little narrative runs, and then between it's, hello, let's talk about various mythologies of gods for a while, and then you jump back into doing your run.
All the people Kratos has killed over the years.
That's a topic that comes up. But yeah, the general idea is Kratos has received a mysterious letter telling him to come to Valhalla without much explanation, and as he goes through...
It's an intervention for therapy, as far as I can tell.
That's kind of the gist. Valhalla is like, hey, whatever is on your mind that you need to work through, we're just gonna pull that out into kind of being reality, and for Kratos, that's fight a lot of things and think about your past. I really like this. It's pretty substantial for a little free update, and I was surprised at how much narrative there was here, and how much that narrative feels really, really significant. I think it's fair to say about it that it is essentially it's an excuse for Kratos to re-examine the events prior to the modern remake God of War games, in which it's about him and his son doing their various activities. Before that, there's a whole bunch of God of War games where he is just angry, shouty man who makes some bad decisions.
Pantheons.
Yeah, he's less of a character who thinks about feelings. Yeah. This is a good opportunity for them to re-explore those early God of War games through the lens of who Kratos is now, and use that for some interesting emotional growth.
Did you say this was a free update?
Yeah, this is a completely free update. It's like
decent.
I think it's like spent maybe 6-8 hours doing first
something like that.
playthrough. There seems to be more narrative and more gameplay stuff that's opened up upon completing the story. So there's more to be seen there. It is pretty good. I have some little issues with it. My biggest one is, much like something like a Hades, you complete a room, and then you'll have new rooms available to you to open, and different types of room will give different types of rewards. And while in something like Hades, it'll literally just be a picture of the reward. It's like, oh, this one has those purple gems, this one has that god's boon or whatever on the door. This has kind of abstract runes, and it's not always easy to look at the rune on the door and tell what kind of reward it's actually going to give you, and that meant I had to frequently pause the game, press L3, look at the glossary, scroll down, find the icon, go, oh, that's that.
Right, it wasn't even doing the you got close enough, we're going to give you a little tooltip pop-up of...
You can't stand by the door and get a little pop-up that says what that reminds you what that rune means.
Ooh.
Sometimes there'll be chests that have the runes, and the chests will do that. You can stand by the chest and it will do a little pop-up that's like, it's one of this type of rune, but it won't do that for the doors.
A few times you were doing like a choice of thing A or thing B. I was like, I couldn't understand why the doors weren't similarly.
Yeah,
there's a full description.
It's my biggest issue with it, but you have a bunch of upgrade options. You always start with all three of your weapons that you had by the end of God of War Ragnarok, your axe, your blades on chains, and your big spear, and there's like, hey, do you want to pick between special attacks for your weapon or stat boosts that are just like generally put the numbers up, or do you want to get like a special ability that will change some aspect of how your your sort of build works, or do you want to get a bunch of currency to spend just within this run? And like, there's a good amount of variety in sort of how you spec that out, and then between runs you've got your like permanent currency shops for like permanent upgrades to get stronger. I do really like that there's a lot of encouragement to change your build on a very regular basis. There's a bunch of challenges that have really good they'll reward you with a lot of permanent upgrade materials if you do these like challenges that are like, use each of the light runes for this weapon, select all of the heavy runes for this weapon. So it's encouraging you to like select all the different things. But also at the start of your run, you pick like a glyph, a shield, a Spartan Rage, and each run they'll put one of them in a like glittering gold and go, if you use this one during this run, we'll give you extra, we'll give you extra XP or extra currency during this run if you use this specific loadout. And yeah, it does a lot to encourage you to like change about your build a bit. There is a nice amount of like new mechanical options for combat that weren't available in the base game that are made available here. It's just a nice little epilogue for Kratos. It is a significant piece of story told through smart reuse of assets.
Yeah, because there's been rumours flying around that this is going to be the end of Kratos, and we're maybe going to move on to is it Atreus?
Atreus, yeah.
When you said Atreyu, I was like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah, if that is the case, this feels like a pretty good send-off for Kratos, sort of coming to terms with like his whole narrative arc. And it's nice that they could find a way to make that mechanically interesting while touching on the narrative ground they touch on. I think they've done a good job with it. It is a really nice little update. So heck yeah, go check this out. It is well worth a look.
Yeah, and interestingly, like, there have been sort of rumours bumbling around about a possible remake of original style God of War. I
wouldn't be surprised, having played this, if we saw some HD re-releases of some of the early God of Wars.
Yeah, because some of those characters are like from previous games, not from Ragnarok or...
I wasn't sure whether to say that much, but there are some assets from old God of War that have been redone up nicely, and that's... It would be a shame to only use these assets once.
And also, aren't the sword chains like one of his original weapons?
They were in God of...
I've only played God of War 2.
So they were available in the old God of War games, but he does get them in the God of Boy God of Wars. He does get those weapons. But yeah, it's a real nice little update.
Yeah, and it looks nice on PS5.
That it do. What about you? What you been playing?
Well, nothing quite so spectacular, I suppose. I played a little game called Loddlenaut.
Oh, it's adorable, this game.
So this I can't even remember where this floated up because I don't recall there being a demo for it, and I was just spotting it, was like putting that on my wish list. I want to see it.
I know it's floated up in a few of the wholesome directs and things like that.
I think maybe that's where I saw it, and it basically you are going to a planet to clean up the ocean because a big corporation has recently abandoned the planet because all their office is flooded. So I guess there's been some oceans rising, and you are basically there to act as like a cleanup squad. And it's like, what if you wanted a really wholesome, slightly pixel arty but 3D style Viscera cleanup detail or similar? There's been a lot of, do you want to do a cleaning or a tidying up recently? And I think this does a really nice job of sort of capturing that while being cutesy and wholesome and saving the local wildlife and having like a weird sort of slightly Pokemon vibe to it as well. Yeah. Because initially it's just like you've got a little laser gun, which is good for like getting gunk off things, like cleaning up an oil spill. So if there's like corals or anything, you can like shoot the gunk off them with your bubble laser. Or if there are things like beer rings or tin cans and things, you just grab them with your little vacuum, and that all sort of goes up, and then you head back to your base to the appropriate recycling bin, and it is like separate your trash. So you just go to your inventory and pop out like, here's all of the tin cans I've collected and all of the metal food containers and the metal scraps that I've just found lying around. I take that to that bin, and then I go to a different bin and drop in all the like beer rings and water bottles and things like that. And then another one is like, here's just glass jars and glass bottles and things, and you get basically bits of whatever that material is. You stick them in the thing, and eventually you'll get like upgrades to make your laser better, or you'll have like a better radar, which will show you like Hitman vision. I'm sure there's a term for it in other things, but basically like that, we're going to highlight things, and you can kind of see through walls to work out where your next bit of trash or where your next
detective vision.
Yeah, detective vision in Batman, I guess. Yeah, that sort of thing, and it's you sort of track down like as much trash as possible, and there's a whole thing about like, yep, you've cleaned up this area, you've gone away and you've done something else, but it's an ocean. The currents are like just swilling trash around, so you do have to go back occasionally and be like, well, I've got to clean up a bit more goop. You've got these adorable little friends called Loddles, who initially are covered in goop, so you have to run them through like an oxygen refill ring, which does them a little clean. And if you clean up their area that you found them in enough, you'll be able to just stick them back in there. You give them some food, because initially they're quite hungry, because there's nothing growing. All of the underwater plants are basically, if not dead entirely, certainly dying and ill and not producing fruit. But you give them a clean up and they'll start producing fruit. And initially you'll want to grab some of that fruit and just feed it directly to the Loddle. But eventually, you know, if you clean up the area enough, they will just start eating what's growing around them. And if you feed them like certain combinations of food, and later on you get like a little underwater grill that you can prepare them like specially prepared food from various types of ingredients. Like there's like a kelp taco. There's some fish candy for fish, and they will grow into slightly different shapes. Like you might get like snaky ones or catfishy ones, and it seems like there is a whole gotta catch 'em all thing of. I've seen people in the like Steam community forums being like, here is a full list of all the different types of Loddles you can get, and I haven't really got into that. I mostly was just there for the cleaning up. I've played through it twice now. I had a really good time. I played through it while we were away visiting friends, and I played through it again on stream, and then I had like an hour left after last stream, and I was like, well, I don't have the spoons for streaming anymore, but I might as well just finish this now. And yeah, it's a fun game. You can learn a little bit about what happened to the planet by collecting like ID badges for people who worked for the company, and like learn little bits of their history. Some of it is as simple as, "Hey, my office is a bit wet. Oh, my office is completely flooded. The whole building's falling into the water. I'm going to be working from the break room today. Okay." And yeah, there's like a whole bunch of those to find. There's to be like a whole bunch of secrets, and yeah, it's just a really fun, very sweet, low poly game about just cleaning up an ocean. And it's another one of those things, a bit like Pandemic Legacy, I guess, when we played during the start of the pandemic, of feels nice to have a little bit of control about something in the world around me.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta engage with a thing that gives you some feeling of control over the scary world.
Yeah. If I didn't have massive ear problems and someone could provide me with a bubble gun, I would go clean up some ocean.
Exactly, I get you.
What about you? What have you played?
I've mainly been like finishing up games because I want to like play new things and I want to get stuff out of my
all
my
the new
to-do
releases
list.
will be coming soon, and you've got to get things out of the way.
In particular, I know that Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the new Yakuza RPG, is coming out at the end of this month, and I'm currently playing through Like a Dragon Guide and the Man Who Erased His Name again, but in English on stream, prepping for that. But I've been trying to get a couple of like my backlog things finished so I can be like, I've finished that. I'm nearly done playing through Lies of P. I'm finally making some really good progress with that. Got past some bosses I was really stuck on. I've clearly reached like the final act of the narrative. Some reveals have happened. I'm trying to find my way to what is presumably the final location of the game. Lies of P is the most fun I've had with a Souls game that wasn't made by FromSoft. It is incredibly satisfying to play. Despite any occasional difficulty spikes that happen, it never feels like unfair as a game. Its narrative is absolute nonsense, but in the kind of way that I find pretty endearing. It's fun that I've mentioned the Yakuza games a second ago, because it's similar in as much as sometimes it wants to be taken very seriously as a narrative, and then sometimes
you've got a weasel mask.
Yeah, you've got a weasel mask on, and Pinocchio's nose grows out of a painting, and now it's a sword. Shit like that.
Sounds perfectly reasonable.
It's a silly little game, but I'm having a delightful time with it. I'm continuing to very much be enjoying being Timothée Chalamet hits people with a trident. I'm glad I've not tried to, like, force myself to finish this game sooner. It's one of those... This game does have some difficulty spikes, and more of them that are more... I would say more notable than a Souls game. Like, they're slightly rougher difficulty pacing. And as such, like, if I've gotten stuck on a boss, I've just given myself permission to go, I'm just going to come back to this in a couple of weeks and not, like, bash my head against the problem. And that has helped. It's meant that I've been playing this game for, like, 4 months, but I'm slowly getting there. I'm making my way through it. I think it was a September release.
Huh.
I think I got it slightly before release. I got early review code for it, so yeah, it's got to be about 4 months I've been playing it.
This is a nice thing for you. Like, you got to play it, you got to keep playing it, and you got to go back to it several times.
Yeah.
And usually it's just like, nope, that's finished, get on with new thing for review.
I was able to play enough of it to be able to give a solid opinion when the embargo lifted, and have enough of it left over to just dip in and out of for a while.
Yeah.
So that's been nice. The other one I'll get out of the way quickly because it's, just finishing stuff up before stuff gets busy. I'm nearly done shiny hunting in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet post new DLC.
Yeah, you went and did, you ran through a whole other Pokemons.
Yeah, so the DLC for Scarlet and Violet, the Indigo Disc, came out, would have been right around when we last recorded this. There's a story in the DLC, and I think it's interesting. I think it's one of the better post games that Pokemon has had. It gave a big new biome, and that had a handful of new Pokemon, but it also had a bunch of Pokemon from past gens that I hadn't shiny hunted yet, that it gave me an excuse to go shiny hunting for. I'm down to, I think, 2 Pokemon left in Scarlet and Violet, and 75 species total across the series that I don't have a shiny of. at least 20 of which cannot be got shiny at all in any of the games right now, which brings it down to, I think it'll be like 55 species left to do. My quest will not be done at that point because some of those are traded ones from other people, and like the next pass of things after that is the 180 or so species that I only have as traded ones from other people to go and shiny hunt myself, so I have one with my trainer name on.
Okay.
I'm continuing to chip away at that task little by little.
Any excuse to make that task a little bit bigger.
Well, that's the thing. I will find many excuses to keep that task going. I already know what the stupid epilogue to this is going to be when I have the full... when I get the full Living Shiny Dex with my original trainer name on all of them and all that sort of thing. At least
IV challenge.
At least until... Oh, no. At least until the next Pokemon releases and I continue that task. My quest is going to be to collect as many unique shiny Spinder as possible. So...
Is that the one that's, like, depending on their, like, random number, it will have different markings?
Yes. So it's like a little rabbit-looking thing with dots on it, and the dots are placed via coordinates based on the unique ID of the Pokemon. There's something like 3 billion combinations of where the dots can be, about 2 million that are recognizably different from each other. Now, I do not believe that it is feasibly possible to have every single shiny Spinder. I know that. But that doesn't mean I don't want to eventually start a quest where I go, literally anyone on the planet, do you have a shiny Spinder? What shiny do you want? I will go shiny hunt something to trade for your shiny Spinder, and I will collect as many shiny Spinders as I can from around the world. I want to have the world's biggest collection of unique shiny Spinders.
You're going to need another Pokemon's home.
Yeah! So that's my stupid next quest that I am planning to do when I eventually complete my shiny living OT Dex, but...
OT?
Yeah, original trainer.
Oh.
But yeah, at some point I am going to start collecting shiny Spinders, and that's going to be a whole other little rabbit hole I fall down. But yeah, that's some games I've been finishing up. What about you? What you been playing?
Well, I was going to talk about a thing that we played together.
Yeah, what did
and
we
a thing that we probably won't fucking finish. Baldur's Gate 3. We played some BG3 together.
We did. We did.
We were like, we've got time off. Let's have a crack at this thing.
Let's do a little co-op of it.
We maybe vaguely, slightly, ever so slightly, just maybe a little bit scratch the surface.
Yes. Here's how it went. We were having a lovely time. Started a fight with what I thought would be one person, accidentally...
Triggered an entire camp.
Yeah, not only an entire building's worth of people to aggro us, but also the people outside the building. We turned the planet against us.
At least an entire species.
We turned an entire species against us through one, like, oh, you know, I'll fight you. Oh shit, apparently, like, everyone in, like, a 3-mile radius heard about that.
Yeah.
We were
like, we just have to get outside this building and then we can fast travel again. And nope. Fucking nope.
Nope. Yeah, our experience was playing BG3, but with a DM who's like, no, I'm here to make you suffer.
Yeah. This wasn't podcast D&D.
This was not podcast D&D.
This was not bards flirting and getting their way.
Yep, and at some point the autosave failed to happen, and...
I assume it was because it was like, you've made quite a catastrophic choice here. You have to want to save this.
Well, I mean, yeah, like, maybe I should have been making more of an effort with manual saving, I suppose, but, yeah.
You lost, like, 3 hours progress.
As someone, this was your first dip into Baldur's Gate 3, what did you think?
Yeah, it was also like my longest dip into any of the Baldur's Gate games, because I had 1 and 2 a long time ago, and I just couldn't really get on with them.
3 is a lot more user-friendly than 1 and 2 ever were.
Basically 5th edition, which I think helps a bit, because
you can carry...
they were 2, 3.5?
Yeah, you can carry existing knowledge into this from 5th edition, and that helps if you are a D&D person.
Although, like, I felt like I was getting way more out of my bonus actions than I would ever even imagine to do in tabletop. Because it's like, oh yeah, there's the orange light is showing. I could shove that person. It's apparently not going to hurt them, but I can shove them.
I mean, that's the thing. It's having the lit up wheels goes, well, I guess I can do this.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that the DM won't prompt you to go, you still have a bonus action, here's your list, do you want to do any of them?
I also appreciated the, like, I would never want to get into, like, miniatures and, like, range finding and all that shit with tabletop D&D. but I appreciate that this is a thing that does all that for you.
Yeah.
And it kind of falls into that thing I feel about some of the more modern, massive board games. Some of them are not almost not worth playing as a board game because they're too big. You need, just like, yeah, I understand you wanted to capture big tabletop, like, or big role-playing style video game, but now you have to have a person that, or find an app, like usually a third-party app, that does all of the processing for you of like all the background stuff, all the range finding, all the other bits.
As someone that doesn't do precise range finding when I DM in 5th edition and sort of play a little loose with positioning, I don't mind positioning when a computer does the numbers for me.
Yeah, like I'm way more okay with it. But it went from being almost at no point during that did it feel like strong narrative stuff, even though we were playing like at the narrative difficulty.
Yes.
It didn't really feel strong narrative stuff, and it felt more tactics game. Because like right from like you do a little bit of wander around the ship at the beginning, and then like almost immediately you're in a big fight with like a bunch of like imps or whatever the hell they were, and there's like mind flayers and some sort of demon thing.
I mean, usually you get a quest and you will have some conversation and choice stuff to make at the start, and then that will lead into one of a few different options of who you are fighting.
Yeah, and a number of people who were just like, gonna just run off with you to a private room and try and kill you.
No, not everyone tried to kill.
Twice.
There was a couple of people who took us into a separate room and were like, I'm thinking about whether I decide to or not. Like, the thought was I was maybe going to kill you in here.
Yeah, and the weird thing about playing that two-player is, like, you were like, okay, I'll go into this room, because you went in the last room. It's like, okay. And, like, almost as soon as you'd crossed the threshold, I was, like, picking the lock. Okay, you say as soon as you need me to do a thing, and, the lock's already picked, and I'm just, like, standing outside the door. And, which was brilliant, because, like, it was an excuse for me to basically play as Ellie, who is, like, my first D&D character.
Yeah.
And I think I only ever got to play her in, like, one thing. And she is my forever NPC whenever I run anything.
Yeah.
It was fun to sort of play her as this, like, tiny little, not actually a goblin, she's a halfling, but, like, a little goblin creature. Like, hee hee hee, I'm looting every single body I find. I'm picking every lock. Even if I don't open the door, I'm just hee hee hee. I proved my point.
Indeed, and it was nice that, like, I could be doing the conversation in the locked room while, like, it gave you something to be doing, to be involved while I was doing the conversation.
Yes, and it really felt like, okay, we're setting up. Let's pretend we're using message, okay?
Yeah,
we know how we're communicating.
I think this, like, the local split screen co-op does a really nice job of, you don't want to split too far from each other in case like a fight kicks off and you're not around to deal with it, but you can
it's a pain in the arse.
Yeah, but see, like, there is a little punishment for splitting apart, but you can do a little bit of that. I'm going around doing this, I'm doing this, and be sort of autonomous. Like, it is nice that you have that flexibility.
Yes, the one thing I think that it falls down a little bit on is conversations.
Yeah.
Because the first person to start the conversation will have the audio playing. But then if another person also starts a conversation, it will, whenever there's silence on the main person, it will start playing theirs but immediately duck it as soon as the original person starts their conversation back up.
Yes, it's not always perfect in that regard.
Yeah.
It's one of those, as soon as we realise we were both in a conversation, it's like, okay, one of us pause, and then we'll handle one conversation, then the other.
Yeah, and a few times it was like, I was just getting into conversations because I thought the people I were talking to would be largely inconsequential.
Yes.
But, like, the way it sometimes, like, wrestled control in weird ways, and ultimately the best answer is, walk towards the person who started the original conversation and press listen.
Yes, and then it just full screens and it's like, this conversation is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is an interesting game in co-op for sure. It's nice having that little bit of interplay of the slightly separated party. Even if it's a little bit, there is no main character in co-op. It's whichever of you clicks on the conversation, you are the main character for this conversation.
Yeah, and it is a little bit fiddly trying to, like, divide the NPCs amongst you as well, because you kind of have to go into a menu that isn't super obvious.
It's not intuitive how you go, I want to take Astarion and put him on your team.
Yeah. Because at one point I think the game crashed, so we went back, started back in, or continued the game, but it hadn't kept the party distributed as it was originally, so it was like, now we need to like go on Reddit and try and work out, because we couldn't find it. We spent like 10 minutes wandering through menus, trying to work out how to split the party in what made sense as how to divide the party.
And like, there's a little of these fiddly things, but like, in terms of capturing, like, the feel of D&D, I think this does a really good job of, like, capturing the vibe of, like, a rules as written 5th edition sort of campaign.
I feel like at some point in, like, if I ever get a decent amount of holiday and free time, I would probably get myself a copy and play through this. But generally, I feel like it takes quite a long time to do anything, especially if you get into combat.
Yeah.
So I think I would probably struggle to try and play this unless I was like, okay, I've got a week and I'm going to get as much of this done as possible. Because it feels like there is so much, and I would probably end up like forgetting bits or losing bits.
So I've been really enjoying playing my solo playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, but the problem I've been having is it feels like it's not worth me sitting down to play unless I can sit for at least 2 or 3 hours and this is what I'm playing. Yeah. And maybe the answer to that is I start playing it on the PlayStation Portal, like, while we're having, like, a chill after dinner or something, and, like, getting it in those kind
Even
of
so,
gaps.
We usually only have, like, an hour or two over dinner.
There's never... I feel like I want big play sessions to play it, but the further that game gets from release, the harder it becomes for me to justify that. Like, I put in a good amount of time when it first came out, so that I could play enough of it to have opinions on it and talk about it, and I want to finish it, but it's just... Unless I'm going to sit down and go, I'm going to spend a weekend, like, chugging away at Baldur's Gate, I'm not really going to make progress.
This feels like the kind of thing that would be great for people who aren't us and don't work multiple evenings a week.
It's the kind of game that is, like, if you've got time in your life for an MMO, you'd fucking get on great with this.
And I wouldn't have to deal with the social.
And I think the other thing is just, like, it would work better for me if I didn't have a job that required me to play a lot of different games, a fair amount, and I could go, I'm really enjoying this is my one game for the next while, and I could just make this the one thing I play. I would probably... be able to stick with it more.
And I think also, like, more intensely, because I've got stuck into RPGs before. Like, I got stuck into Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah.
I got stuck into Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. And all of those felt like you could play as little as, like, 15, 20 minutes in like, what time you had. But BG3 does not feel like that at all.
It's not even the length of the play sessions, it's the unpredictability of how long... Like, I made a choice, and I have no idea how long that's going to commit me to playing.
Yeah.
Like, I might get stuck in, like, a very lengthy fight, and it doesn't feel like a good point to stop until I really finish this whole set of encounters that have kicked off. And, like, it's not a game that you can go in going, I know if I jump in... this thing's going to take me about half an hour, and I've got time for that.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating game. It is a wonderful game. It is a game that is very, very demanding of the player.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't lose anything for that, but it's not a game that I am necessarily going to find an easy time to sit down and play it as much as it deserves to be played.
Yeah, it is... It's an interesting one.
Yeah. But good job to all the voice cast, though.
Oh, yeah.
They've been fun, all the people we've met so far.
Indeed. What about you? You played anything else recently?
Well, talking about attractive people that you can sort of date, I guess, I played Monster Prom.
Oh, Monster Prom!
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, that there was like an evening, we were going to do some things with some people we know, and someone was like, we'll watch a film, and maybe we'll play Monster Prom together.
Yeah.
So I picked up Monster Prom, and I have never touched it. And it keeps being one of those things right at the front of my, like, Steam, hey, you should play this next, it's in your library. So I installed it, and I played through it, and I'm always saying I'm not a person for visual novels
Yeah.
or dating sims, and I don't get it. I played 2 games. I played a short game and a long game.
Yeah.
The short game, I was like, okay, I feel like I was railroaded into something, I don't even know what. I feel like I was supposed to have been attempting to date one particular person who I didn't particularly care for.
Yeah.
And then, like, I got turned down by the person I did ask to prom, and apparently that is the worst thing that can possibly happen to you.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then, like, I tried a second playthrough. I was like, I don't like most of these people. I don't want to date any of them. So I got to the end of it. I actually got an ending. I did get to date the person that I had been sort of pursuing in that run. I don't get it.
As a visual novel person, I don't get Monster Prom either. I know it's kind of sacrilege. It just didn't. It just never clicked for me. It's forgettable. It's not. It just doesn't. It's not what I'm looking for.
You'd rather go with pigeons.
Oh yeah, let me date pigeons any day of the week. Yeah, Monster Prom is forgettable and not particularly engaging, and I know there are people who will hate that opinion, but not for me.
Maybe people will be able to explain something that I didn't get about it, or about the fundamental underlying mechanics of just what the fuck is going on. It's like, I think I want to find someone. I don't know how to do that, because they appear to be in certain places all of the time, and other times, or like, at lunch, everybody is always at lunch, so you can always find everybody at lunch. But other than that, it's like, I don't know what you do. And in some runs where it seems like you were the person that I somehow clicked with during that initial questionnaire, somehow now you're everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And so that means I'm like locked into you, and I have to try and date you for this run. I don't get it, and I don't care. Sure. Okay, fine. Yeah. It was weird. I watched someone play the third one, the road trip one.
Yeah.
That looked kind of fun.
The road trip one, I think, is better. The road trip one has a lot more control over what's going on and a lot more variation in what you see. I think it's more of a video game as well. It's less visual novel and more there's actual game to do.
I'm not adverse to monster fucking. I am an avid monster fucker, but
give me better monster fucking.
Give me better monsters to be interested in, apparently.
Look, it's not the worst monster fucking game I've played. I played Romancylvania.
Ooh.
Other things we've played. We've been playing a board game together that you got at the festive period.
We did. We played through Sleeping Gods. We did a whole run through Sleeping Gods.
Yeah, over the course of several day-long, like, big lengthy sessions.
4 sessions. Oh, one of them was a little bit shorter than the other. Like, our second session was, like, notably shorter than the others.
Yeah.
But yeah, we put, like, I think, like, at least 20 hours in total.
That sounds
across
about
4 sessions.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I was roughly keeping an eye on it on my board game stats tracker, but... Yeah, so this is a story about a bunch of people on a boat sailing for New York, I think, in 1926. Basically, the captain's father, I think, has fallen ill and has received a telegram, and they're like, I'm going. And the captain and their 8 passengers head off, hit a storm, and find themselves in the Wandering Seas, a weird, mythical series of islands, I guess, an archipelago, kind of. You're almost immediately attacked by minotaurs, and then this random old woman appears and she's like, the gods have summoned you, the gods are all imprisoned and asleep at the moment, so you're going to have to collect a bunch of totems to wake them up, bye!
Yep.
And that's it. You have a ship that you have different places you can go to. At the start of your turn, you will pick a place on the ship that isn't the same place that someone went to last time, and that will give you abilities to like heal people or remove certain tokens from bits that will basically unlock cards that have been used, or go like fishing off the front of the ship to try and get new supplies, and that might be like ingredients for food or ways of repairing the ship. Or money, and then you, very much like a fighting fantasy book or a choose your own adventure book. It's there is a book that is like a spiral bound book that is a map, and it's divided into sections, and you can spend like a movement skill to get to like further across the board. Or you could just go, I want to go and explore this town that's number 24, and you open a big ass storybook and you read from the storybook, or in our case, we use the Foreteller app, the same one we do for Frosthaven.
It's the one that gives us like dramatic audiobook readings.
Mm-hmm.
And you get your sort of like description of where you've gone, and you probably a choice to make.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a combat encounter.
Yeah, or a little skill check to pass.
Yeah.
And then you might get, and this is the system by which you sort of track the things you're doing, is you might get a card with a keyword, and those will be how you unlock, like, oh, do you want to do this thing? Well, you have to have found this keyword out in the world elsewhere, because that starts this quest, and that's your sort of system for unlocking new things to do in the world.
Yeah, the keyword system is quite fascinating, because some of the keywords, or some of those, are very specifically a quest, like, hey, you've met this person, they've given you this quest card, it has the keyword at the bottom of it, so if you go to that place, it might be, you go to the storybook for the place you've been to, and it'll say, like, almost the first thing, like, if you've got this keyword, skip straight to this. Otherwise, you might go, you've gone to, say, you've found a random abandoned hut. You go to the hut on your own, just having randomly looked for somewhere to explore, and maybe there's nothing there at all. Or maybe you go there at a time when you've already picked up a keyword, and you know specifically to lift up a floorboard.
Yeah.
Not something that you would have got normally, but now you've got the keywords, you can go and find this thing. It's like you go straight to the thing, you unlock the thing, you get a special thing, have a bunch of XP, maybe some money, maybe some resources, and you can return to the ship, or you can continue exploring the island.
And I like that there are sometimes contradictory keywords. So you might go to a place and it's like, if you have this keyword, this quest is available and that one's not. If you have that keyword, this one's available and the other one's not.
Yeah, and a lot of that is basically just trying to hide the mechanics from you.
Yeah,
because as I say, like, some of them are just literally just keywords to be like, if you go back to a place you've already been, you can't be at the start of the quest again.
Yes, like, okay, yeah, you wanna loot that place that you've already looted, where you've got a keyword for that place, so you can't do that thing again because you've already got the keyword that says you did it.
Yeah.
But the system that this plays nicely with is there is a map that you can do your own little cartography on.
Yes.
So if you're like, oh, I went to this place and I didn't have the keyword iron, I'll write iron next to that. If I later find iron, I'm like, shit, I can go back to that island and there'll be something new to see.
Exactly. Like, we, as I say, we did a full run through of this, which is 54 rounds.
Okay, yeah.
So that's, you basically have this event deck.
Yes.
So as I was saying earlier, you do your ship action at the top, then you read an event card. You might have to do a certain like skill check by matching icons on members of your crew and giving them fatigue if you want to use them in that particular test. And you can use multiple members of the crew if you want to, but that will mean like potentially fatiguing lots of people, and that can have negative effects. And once you've cleared that event, you can move on and do two actions, and that can be things like explore or buying things from the market if you're near a marketplace. You can do port actions like repairing your ship or going to an inn and healing everyone up, getting rid of some fatigue. Like big actions.
Yeah.
And that is that event deck is kind of a timer.
Yeah.
And every one of those event decks has 6 nice easy things at the top, and that might be like, hey, a fish literally jumped onto your boat. You can kill it for food, or you can push it back in the water. Or you passed a trading vessel. If you've got some money, you can buy some of this.
Yeah.
Or you can attack them, or you can just say goodbye.
Yeah.
And then, like, as you go through those first 6, the next 6 will be a little bit more difficult, and that might be like you're encountering storms, or you've got kelp wrapped around the rudder, and someone's got to go and sort that out. Or the last ones are usually really horrible things like, there's rats on the ship. This could be an ongoing effect. You can either deal with this now by passing quite a high skill check, or risk that every time you flip over a card, a fake card, which is just like a random number between 1 and 6, to see what extra things are added to any skill check. Yeah. If it's a 1 or a 2, you will always lose a food as long as this card is out. So you can deal with it now, or you can potentially lose all your food.
One thing I really like about this game is once you've done the setup, it's very flexible in how lengthy or not a play session of it can be.
Yeah, you could literally play 1 round.
Yeah, you're basically like, I would say at any point you can go, you finish a round and go, it's going to be maybe 15 to 25 minutes if we choose to do another round, depending on if there's combat or not. Do we want to do another round? And you can basically make your play session as lengthy or not as is necessary.
Yeah,
like
theoretically, you could play through the whole thing in one go.
It's got that flexibility that something like Baldur's Gate 3 we talked about earlier doesn't really have. Like, this is, you can make this a whole day thing, or you can get a couple of hours in and go, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, or and there are like little sub positions that you could work out, like nice places to wrap up.
Yeah.
Because as I said, you've got like the easy, medium, and hard points of the deck. You could go, all right, okay, then so the next one is the next difficulty up. Shall we wrap before we get to that one? So we'll finish this round. I'll do my actions. We'll make our decisions, and then we'll pack it up. And then there's just these like slightly longer than usual zip bags that are perfect for just going. Okay, you put each of the individual crew members and the captain in their own bag, and all of their power-up cards or any of the extra skills you've attached to them cards go on there. Any tokens that were on them, any health or damage that they've lost, go on them, and you could just seal that bag, and that is that whole character saved.
It's such a nice system for saving your progress and having all of these things you were in the middle of tracking, like, be very compartmentalized to reset them up for another game later. You don't have to do that thing of, we've got to leave it on the table until we come back to it, that you can't really do with a cat like Smudge.
Yeah, it does say, like, if you've got the space to do it and it's not going to be a problem, you can just leave the game set up, and that's fine.
It's not that inconvenient to pack away and re-bring back out, and that is impressive given how many systems it has going on.
It does have a lot of systems going on.
Yeah.
And, as we say, we played through an entire 20-hour campaign. We've seen one ending of, I think, about 9 possible endings.
We've thoroughly explored 3 squares on the map and kind of started exploring a 4th out of quite a big map. There's a lot of that map we just never went to.
Yep.
Not even did a cursory glance in.
Yep.
Quests that we picked up and never found the answers to. Items we found, and we know where to go back and buy if we need them, but we never found out what to use them for.
Yeah, like, at one point we found a diving suit. We were like, well, better spend the money and pick that up. We never found where it was needed.
Yeah, so, like, if we were to do another playthrough of this, I suspect we would just completely sail, like, south or east rather than west or north, where we sort of started this time, and go, cool, what's this way? And just pick an island to start on and see where the quests lead us.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of this game we have not seen.
Oh, yes.
And it seems like it's going to be a while before there's any repetition in what we see across playthroughs.
I mean, unless we choose to go and do things we've done previously, or in the hopes of maybe picking up particular quests that we sort of started and never finished.
But that's sort of within our power to do.
Yeah, and it's nice that it is you've got like quite a thick pad of logs.
Yeah.
That come in the game, and it's so you put the date you started your first playthrough. Eventually, you'll put the date you ended and your final score. You'll also have just a quick way of logging like each of your saves for every session.
Yeah.
So you need to like write down which cards people had in their hands, how many command tokens they had. And that's just written down, and everything that you as a team have is collected together in one baggie. So it'll be like those are separate from the things the characters have, and that could include like just equipment you've picked up, extra recipes, because there's a whole thing about like cooking, and like that's another way of healing people up once you've got a good way of regularly getting like meat and vegetables and grain. Like recipes is one of the biggest savers in that game. Like get a bunch of money together, go to a market, you get to draw 7 items from the market deck, and guaranteed one of them will probably be a recipe, which is just a really good way of getting rid of a bunch of fatigue and a bunch of lost health. without having to find a port, because sometimes ports you're not near a port and you don't want to waste the time going back to one when you know that the clock is constantly ticking.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating narrative. I definitely appreciate having the Foreteller app, even though it does have its bugs. They are, thankfully, they are transitioning from the old app to a new online system, which works way better, but there are still a lot of teething problems.
Occasionally you'll click on, we're going to do this, and it will play the you didn't do that audio occasionally.
Yeah, but I've been sending bug reports, so hopefully those things will be fixed for, other people attempting to do it. But I do appreciate the dramatized reading, because...
Agreed.
one thing I know that I am terrible for, I'm not a great reader, especially out loud. I can get very monotone when I'm starting to read out loud, and some of those passages are quite long.
Yeah.
Especially the ending. The ending, we were we've got 3 more cards left in the event deck in our last run through the event deck, so I think maybe we'll probably leave it there. And then it was still 45 minutes running through the ending, making our very big decisions about how we get through those last sections. And then just going, there's so much to this.
Yeah, there is.
I had a fascinating time with that. Look forward to playing more of it and seeing what else is in there. You got anything else you played?
That's, I think, most of my stuff. You got anything else you wanted to talk about that you played?
Yeah, I got a few extras. Rattle off some short ones. We played a bunch of Frosthaven. We got our Frosthaven party together.
Continuing to really enjoy Frosthaven as big group dungeon crawl.
I think we may be heading towards a quarter of the way through a campaign, as best we can tell.
We are we're getting through our first winter.
We're about halfway through our first winter.
Yeah. This game continues to have some really, really creative ideas for how to set up missions that feel really distinct from each other, despite being made using the same pieces.
Oh, yes.
Without going into specifics, we did a mission that involved a central room with a bunch of corridors off it, and a bunch of here's an element per direction, and I'll say that much about it. That felt completely unlike anything else we'd played so far.
It was fascinating, and I think this leans into a thing they got a lot of complaints with, apparently, with Gloomhaven, was too many of their missions are go here, kill all the things. And this was very much a go get the thing and come back with the thing, but also, your decisions about which things you go and get, because you can only get 4 out of 6. Good luck.
And the mechanical benefits we got for which rooms we went to.
Yeah.
And the ways that we were I won't cash in this objective yet because we get a bonus for holding on to it for a bit, and that's going to help us, do the rest of it.
And the way we sort of looked at it at the start and went, mechanically, I think this is what is going to happen. Let's make our decisions based on that. And then finding that was almost correct, but also not at all. And we did have to contend with some things that were perhaps a lot scarier than...
I continue to be very pleased with the variety of content that Frosthaven is offering up.
Also very much enjoying the whole city building there. That's been absolutely fascinating. I played a bunch of Food Chain Island, a button-shy game that I've had for a little while now. We talked about Sprawlopolis a little while ago. It's an 18-card game that comes in a little plastic wallet that is great for taking places. We took it to a wedding last year.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the city building one. But the other game I got is Food Chain Island, where you basically lay out a grid, a 4x4 grid of cards, and you have 2 sea creatures, and all the cards have numbers on, and most of them have a special ability. So they're numbered 0 to 15, and 0 is just a plant. It can't eat anything. But 15 is a tiger, and it can eat anything up to 3 points or 3 numbers lower than it. So you're shuffling the cards and then dealing them out randomly, and it's just a puzzle. You're trying to do your best to try and get basically down to one lone thing left on the island, and you have your two little sea creatures, which are special powers. And the base game ones are move one creature one space and eat anything below it. Or the other one is you discard it and you can move one creature to any other space. And you've got this like fascinating puzzle of using all of those things. How can you best deal with all of the creatures, and down to at least one, or at most one, for the best scores. Basically, the scores are: 1 is you're really good at this, 2 is you're doing pretty good, and 3 is you're just an amateur, practice more. It's a cheap little game. The base game is only 18 cards. I've got the expansions for it, and my goodness, that gets a bit chaotic with expansion. There's like loads of extra sea creatures, so you just pick 2 random from the ones you have. There's flying creatures, which will have like a challenge that you have to do, and in order to discard them, and you can't win the game if you haven't discarded them by the end. So some of them, it might be like, you have to have an odd-numbered creature be the predator 3 turns in a row in order to discard it. And then you've got, like, special creatures which will only appear after a creature has been eaten next to it. So you can't even just start working on them straight away. You have to calculate, how am I going to maneuver things in such a way that they're going to land in the right place that I can flip those things up before I can even start thinking about how I'm going to deal with them.
So it's a lot of thinking multiple steps ahead of yourself to try and not screw yourself out of being able to do the things you're aiming for.
Like, you might be like, yeah, this is a really great way of getting rid of that and that and that and that, and suddenly you've got like all your high-numbered ones on one side and all your low-numbered ones on one side, and no way, like, your lowest-numbered one on the high-numbered side is now too big to eat any of the creatures on the low-numbered side. Yeah, and then, like, each of the creatures, when they are the predator, they will, like, usually have a special power. So it might be something like, this time, slide the prey under the predator instead of moving the predator on top of the prey. Or next turn, it has to be one number below the prey has to be one number below the predator. Or next time, the thing has to move diagonally. Or after this moves, you have to move it at least one space. Which means you're then going, yeah, but it's perfectly set up so that you can eat that and then that. But if it moves out of the way, then it's not going to be in a place where it can actually eat the thing anymore. And yeah, it's like you can knock out a game in like 10 minutes, and it's very addictive. Just do one more game of the Fuji.
Very condensed little loop.
Good fun and lots of replayability, which is surprising for such a tiny little game. Have I got much else? I've got a couple of other things, but I think the thing I really want to talk about is Excavation of Hobbs Barrow.
This is this thing that you've been playing the last few days where you keep not explaining what you mean, but going, this game is strange. This is weird.
Yeah.
And I have no context for what this game actually is.
So, the game is about a barrow digger. Kind of an archaeologist, kind of a grave digger. She wouldn't call herself a grave digger, but she steals pottery from Neolithic graves. Neolithic burial sites.
I'd probably call that a grave digger.
Right. And basically she's been in communication with this person from a tiny little town in the north of England, and like they've only just got a railway station.
Okay.
And she's basically writing about barrows and burial mounds across England. And he's talking about this place called Hobbs Barrow that's local, and it's got like a weird local history and like lots of superstition around it, and he thinks she'd be absolutely fascinated by it.
Yeah.
She turns up at this little tiny town called Bewley. There's no one to meet her. All of the villagers are like, you're not local. Don't like you. And she's like, seems to be missing a bunch of stuff. It's constantly pissing with rain and miserable. The person she's supposed to be meeting, half the villagers claim they don't even know this guy. And the other half are like, barely see him. Occasionally comes into town to get his post. But, he lives miles away. Eventually deciding you're going to stay at the one inn public house. immediately having weird dreams, finally meeting the vicar who agrees to take you out to this person's house, then finding that there's no one home, but that, like, there's all these clothes on the washing line, and including a glove, the other glove of which you found the night before after someone disappeared that you were chatting to in the pub. Like, there's a lot of weird shit going on in that story. There's some weird supernatural stuff, and the ending is wild. Just wild. I have no interest in reading Lovecraft, but I do love the idea of a cosmic horror, of, like, something unspeakable and massive and, like, unexplainable, with terrible, terrible powers that could crush you like a fly, surrounded by mysteries and puzzles and possibly cults. But no interest in reading that racist bastard's books.
Yeah.
I realise that people they find them fascinating, and I realise that people are doing a lot with them that is considerably not racist by virtue of the fact that it's now all public domain.
Doesn't change the fact that you read a lot of those stories and go, I can't separate this from the knowledge that he was writing about thinly railed stories about races of people.
Exactly. So having a story that is a cosmic horror but doesn't touch on any of the Cthulhu mythos is fascinating. Like, you're constantly having little flashbacks to this main character's childhood, like, because their father was injured at some point. We don't really know how. At one point we're told it was a horse riding accident. That's not true. But he is basically unable to move and unable to speak. And no one's quite sure at this point how conscious he has. The character keeps having flashback to her childhood about him being like, I'm going off to do some archaeology type stuff. Like, the kid being basically fascinated by Daddy's an adventurer and stuff.
That would be fascinating.
And then him getting sick and his mum being like, I'm burning all of your father's books. Ask not about what any of this stuff is. It's just a fascinating story, especially when you are pushing against a whole cast of characters who, for the most part, don't want anything to do with you. They don't want you in town. But they're almost universally telling you to leave right up until the point the train line gets blocked and you can't leave. Most of the story is told over the course of 3 days, and it rains every single one of those days. It is a fascinating story, and I'm glad I picked it up. That was another one of Casey's recommendations, and yeah, good job. That's a good game. Some things happen. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but boy howdy. And also, it does that thing. A horrible comparison to make. You know how, like, in Ren and Stimpy, they used to do the, like, weird super close-up, like, shots?
Yeah.
They'd be, like, weird super detailed things that are nothing like the rest of the animation. And this does cutscenes kind of like that. Like, for the most of it, it's all done in engine, but occasionally there'll just be, like, a close-up of someone's weird face. And they're old and craggy, and they live on the moors surrounded by mists, and what the fuck is up with that goat? I'm not going to tell you, but weird shit. Weird shit is happening in Hobbs Barrow, and it's a fascinating, dark little game that you can probably get through in about 6 to 8 hours without too much trouble. It manages to avoid, for the most part, doing the moon logic thing.
Yeah.
Like, the few times I got stuck, I kicked myself as soon as I worked it out. Like, yeah, of course, I should have understood that. Like, at one point there was a puzzle where I needed to find a key, and I had been told that the key was in a specific place, and I'd, like, gone to the place I was convinced it probably was. It wasn't that place. Then I looked through a whole bunch of, like, clues on a wall, and something was like, it's a reference to a thing. I hadn't looked at the fact that one character had been jamming that thing down my throat every interaction we'd had right up until the point they'd vanished, and I should have been able to go, that's a clue. That is the answer to the thing I'm looking for. You silly me. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I would appreciate if it had the classic Scum game thing of I can press a button to pause it no matter what is going on.
Yes.
Because the number of times I was mid-dialogue that was unskippable and wouldn't necessarily be able to be reviewed at any point.
Yes.
There's very little of the, hey, what did you say about this one thing in that game? There's no, log that I could find that tells you, hey, here are all the conversations you've had.
Yeah.
There is a, hey, what am I supposed to be doing now, thing that you could look at. It doesn't really give you hints. It's just hey, I am heading for this thing now, or I am trying to achieve this goal. Which is good, I guess, for if you've been coming back to it sort of more than a few hours or days at a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, had a really good time, and I look forward maybe to seeing other things from those creators.
Nice.
Yeah, that, I think, is all of the things that I want to talk about that I played.
Well then, time for this.
Hello, madam.
Oh, hi.
Have you ever considered living in a giant mushroom?
I can't say I've ever considered it, but I'm not opposed to living in a giant mushroom.
Have you ever thought perhaps about living in a lighthouse?
I have thought of living in a big tower thing. I suppose this is similar.
Very similar, these giant mushrooms.
Okay, well, how expensive is a giant mushroom to live in?
Oh, some would say it's incredibly expensive, while I would say it is entirely for free.
Okay, it seems like there's a catch. What's the catch?
You
What do I
may
have to
live
do?
in this giant mushroom as long as you agree to make as many mushroom puns as possible.
Oh!
Come into the giant mushroom. See, this is my room, my cellium.
Well, that was a good pun. You, to me, seem like a fun guy.
Oh, you're getting it. Yes, I think you're just the right person for a mushroom. And you'll agree there's quite mushroom in here.
Oh, I was going to make a similar joke. I was going to say I'm glad it's not much smaller because then there wouldn't be mushroom in here.
Oh, yes, very good, very good. Oh, I'm laughing till I'm spore. Yes, welcome. I suppose you can live here now. Oh, giant mushrooms of fun.
Making this my whole personality now.
Oh God, wow, what day is it? Huh. Somehow lost several days. Okay, let's see what's going on in the world. Elon Musk solves world hunger. Elon Musk has housed every single unhoused person in the world. Don't I know? Hey, you! What are you doing?
Oh, just moving all of your furniture out.
Why?
Oh, well, you when you spoke to me yesterday, you said you wanted to give it all away to people more in need. We sort of arranged it last night, so I came back as arranged to get rid of it all.
Why would I do that? Was I in some kind of fugue state? Did I look like I was hypnotized?
I mean, I don't know what that would look like.
What's happened? Why am I getting notifications that my bank is empty? I don't have any money. What's going on here?
You gave me this letter yesterday. Told me to give it to you today. Once it seemed obvious you were confused. So I guess that's now.
Right. Letters. Who uses paper anymore? Jesus. Is this the Bronze Age? Okay. Magic teapot. Wishes. You wished for control of all of my assets?
Oh no, not me. I'm guessing whoever wrote the letter.
Oh. So I've given all of my money away, all of my property, all of my shares, and I've handed Twitter over to the Internet Archive. I'm destroyed.
Well, for once, you have some genuinely earned good press coverage. So, you're a self-made man. You can make it all back again, right? Right? Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
Do you know anyone with an emerald mind who'll adapt me? So, what have you put in your eyes?
What
Eyes.
have we put in our eyes? We watched a film together.
We watched a couple.
Yeah, we watched a film at the cinema.
We did.
We watched the new Ghibli film, The Boy and the Heron.
Or How Do You Live?
Yeah, is that the Japanese name?
That is the Japanese name, and it is name dropped during the film.
Indeed. Yeah, this is a very interesting Ghibli film.
It is. It's the first one I've ever seen on a big screen.
Absolutely gorgeous to see on a big screen.
Oh, yes.
It really does justice to Ghibli's wonderful art. But yes, it is an interesting film in that it starts off for quite a while being quite a grounded, not anything mystical or magical happening, just
Trauma, to the point where I genuinely thought that it was just going to be a film about a child with PTSD.
I really did for a bit wonder whether this was just not going to have anything mystical in it at all and just be like, hello, your mum died in the war and now you are just a depressed child dealing with dead parent trauma.
And occasionally seeing your mother in flames.
Yeah. Now, I will say, that portion of the film, I really respect how good a use of, quiet and silence that made.
Yeah.
It really did a good job of knowing how long to linger and not feel like the film wasn't giving you anything. To feel like it was progressing while not rushing itself.
Yeah.
There is a half of this film that is on the surface much more about an exploration of a magical world in that Ghibli-esque way that you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a film that very much feels like it is quite direct metaphor for some of Miyazaki's feelings on the creative process.
Yes. And his ability to continue having that creative process.
Yes. I think, trying not to say too much, I think it's worth knowing before going into this film that Miyazaki once went to the premiere of a film that his son had made and walked out about 2/3 of the way through the film, and when an interviewer asked him why he'd left before the film was over and whether he liked it, he said, of course I didn't like it. Why would I have left early if I liked it? My son has made a terrible film, and off he walks. That feels important to know, because, there's definitely bits of that impact what this film is saying or not saying. I feel like this film is saying something healthier than that, but I feel I feel like this is a film that you make after maybe having some feelings about, maybe that wasn't the healthiest way to, respond to my son's creative work.
Yeah.
It is a fascinating film.
It's a fascinating and beautiful film, and I wish I'd had my ADHD meds before I went to the cinema because I was getting really fidgety in the last hour of that movie. But it is, it's a fascinating story. The characters are really interesting. The way it messes with certain concepts is fascinating. As someone who enjoys Ghibli movies for the numerous and various and adorable cats, this was a very bird-centric film, and the parakeets were adorable.
Yes. We saw the English dub of this, and in particular, I think the cast did a fantastic job. In particular, Robert Pattinson as the Heron.
Didn't realise that was him.
Absolutely pulled out, the wildest box of voices. Did not just go, I have one good voice acting voice for this film. He's like, I've got 4 different voices I'm going to use, and they're all very distinct and very useful.
He really doesn't want to be known as just the little vampire boy anymore, does he?
Yeah.
He's fighting real hard.
Honestly, he did a superb job. I could not have pictured that character voiced by anyone else. There are
a few big names in this, and I didn't realise most of them until the credits rolled.
Yeah, I will say, don't go into this expecting a Spirited Away where the entire thing is sort of childhood whimsy throughout, but don't go in expecting the opposite end of the spectrum and expecting this to be something like Grave of the Fireflies. It really is trying to walk a line down the middle.
It falls somewhere between The Cat Returns and Grave of the Fireflies.
It is trying to be a grounded story about a person, but that person's life happens to be intertwined with the creation of fantastical worlds. and both of those can sort of coexist in one life, I think.
There's a lot of coexisting and
Yeah.
working out how people live.
Yes. There are some plot points in the film that I think were very obvious and very telegraphed, but I didn't feel they never came across as, oh, that was supposed to be a secret and I worked it out too early. It's like, I worked that out, but I maybe didn't work out the why of certain things. I was like, oh, I know who that character is. I can work out who that character is. How have they ended up interacting? Maybe that's the mystery of it all.
Yeah.
Gave a lot to think about and a lot of mentally chewing over kind of room after finishing it.
Yes. That was another one we left the theatre had
It's
a fairly long conversation about.
It's definitely one of the more, one of the Ghibli films that we've come away from with more like, we have a lot of things to talk about and a lot of like, what's your opinion on this? And I appreciate that about it. It's not what I would want every Ghibli film to be, but I enjoyed it here. But yeah, it is a fascinating film, and I'm glad we got to see it on a lovely big screen.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you? What you been watching?
Watched Hilda season 3.
We did.
It is quite a magical show, that, and I think after something of the Mountain King. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
The movie that seemed to be like, oh, Netflix doing a Netflix again, and I guess they're just wrapping up a show before it's ready to go, and being able to come away from that and still go, we've got a third season in us.
Yes.
Rather than Netflix fucked it up by going, you're going to wrap it up now, this is all you're going to get, maybe.
Yeah.
Wait, come back.
I really liked season 3. I think that it did a good job of being its own self-contained thing that could exist after the movie.
Yeah.
That didn't feel like it was an unnecessary addendum to a finished story. I'm glad that was the case. It dealt with some topics that, like, I'll say this much. As someone that had, like, a not great at turning up reliably dad, like, this tackles that kind of subject material in, like, a very, like, well-handled way that is gonna be very useful for some kids watching at a certain age.
I imagine so. Tiptoeing around spoilers here.
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of feelings and expressing feelings, I think it will be helpful.
Yeah.
Even if, maybe it doesn't ultimately commit to some of the things it seems like it's tackling.
Yes.
Is that a good way to put that?
Yeah, I think that manages, and also this is very much a season with growth in it. Like, the characters all feel like a year or so older. Like, it feels like they are getting towards, like, teenage years. David especially.
Yeah.
David very much feels like getting into that, like, slightly isolated teen.
It reminded me in some places of, like, Steven Universe Future.
Yes.
And specifically, like, not just because they've aged up a little, but in that your group of friends is maybe pulling in different directions a little as they age. Yeah. And that existing while still trying to keep what your friendship was. And I think that was handled well. Yeah. It was sweet, it was funny, it continued to be very, very good watching.
The ending made me cry a lot because it was very pretty and really was a nice conclusion, because I think this is, like, very specifically the last of this story. Like, I don't think the creators has any plans or any great desire to do any more.
I kind of hope that's the case. I think this is a great place to leave it and to let it settle.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoy Hilda. It's sweet, and it's one of those. It feels like the kind of fairy tales they were still telling a bit when I was a kid, and it feels less like they want to tell those kind of, like, actually not everything works out well in a fairy tale type stories these days, where a lot of our fairy stories now are what Disney do.
Yes.
And they really just do that. Everything's okay. Don't worry about it. There's no long-lasting consequences. Think about it like a cartoon show where it doesn't matter where you tune in, you don't have to worry about consequences because everything's wrapped up at the end. It's okay. And Hilda doesn't seem to be afraid of going, actually, some things do go bad.
Yeah.
Occasionally. And there are, like, sad and long-lasting consequences to actions, not even necessarily by the main cast, but by humanity.
Yeah.
And I think Hilda has done a lot with that. Obviously, with the first season, we had trolls. Trolls are an absolute menace. Trolls are terrible, but trolls are also their own species.
Yeah.
And you did kind of like steal their land.
Yeah, and then torture them with a sound that causes them abject pain.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be a bit pissed off at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say enough positive things about Hilda. It's lovely.
It is great.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you watched anything else?
Oh, we watched the extended version of Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
The 3.5 hour cut of that film.
Yeah.
That 3.5 hour cut does not feel as long as it is.
No.
Despite the fact that Fellowship of the Ring, no matter how you watch it, feels like there's like 3 or 4 points in it where it feels like okay, and that's the end of this movie. Nope, we're going a bit further.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, as you pointed out, is because it is a series of books. They put a few different stories together into one film, and therefore you can feel where the bookends
Well,
were.
like, even, like, as written, like, Fellowship of the Ring as a book is 2 books.
Yeah.
It's like, it's book 1 and book 2, so that is the first problem. And then you've got everything breaking apart at the end, like, at the end of Fellowship. With the Fellowship breaking, with, like, Gandalf dying would have been, like, a perfect opportunity to end. Getting to Lothlorien would have been a good, like, resting place.
There's
Leaving Lothlorien, and then, obviously, where the fucking, Merry and Pippin getting kidnapped, Boromir dying, Frodo and Sam going off together, and, obviously, the liberties that are taken with the movie version. Yeah, like, for all the stuff they cut out, that is... It doesn't fuck about, pacing-wise.
No, they get a lot of stuff done. Yeah, I am... This is one of the few, like, extended cuts of a film where I feel like it actually adds.
Yeah.
So often it's like, you cut stuff out for a good reason and you pasted it back in and it's not to a film's benefit.
Yeah.
I think this is, like, a really fucking good way to watch this film.
Yeah, like, and I remember watching the original because I was, like, Lord of the Rings was, like, my special interest for the longest time. And I remember watching the original cut, the first film, and I went, I don't really like it, there's too much cut out of it, and it's trying to rush too quickly. The extended edition came out, and I really enjoyed it, but I still didn't love it.
Yeah.
And that continued through the release of the rest of the films. Like, I really hated Two Towers and Return of the King as movies. And what I think is interesting is, I don't know if it's like how precious I am about the series anymore, just being a bit older and understanding a bit more about filmmaking and pacing and my own time. But I genuinely, like, had a lot more enjoyment of the experience this time watching it, and I have watched that version of that film a lot.
Yeah.
And all of the commentaries and all of the other versions of it. And, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm tempted to try watching the other two and see if the years have softened it.
If you want to try the others, I'm up for watching them with you. And if you just want to watch this again, but with, like, extended edition with director's commentary, I'll do that with you. I'll watch whatever version of this one you're into.
That's a good one.
I genuinely, I very much enjoyed this, and I would go through multiple versions of it with you, because I am excited to see more of the thing you like.
The Shire is very green and pleasant, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Have you watched anything else?
We rewatched the Barbie movie together. And my thoughts on that, I think, are pretty succinct. I enjoy a lot of that film. Barbie, don't fucking forgive Ken.
Don't forgive Ken.
Don't soften.
placate Ken.
Don't placate his feelings. He tried. He tried to go, hey, what if I took away all of your rights because I felt like you didn't give me enough attention? I'm sorry, I wanted you to be my girlfriend. Fucking tell him to fuck off.
Yeah.
Tell him
Yes.
to fuck off.
Yes.
Enjoyable film, though.
Yeah, it's...
For all of the corporate marketing shill that it is, it's an enjoyable corporate marketing show.
Although, once again, I think we both commented on just how aggressively anti-Mattel it is at times.
There are things that I am surprised they got away with. Every time I see the interior of the Mattel offices as a grey, featureless building full of people in, 8-foot-high walled cubes, not allowed to interact with each other, I'm like, that really is...
full of white men.
Yeah, that really is a representation that you were like, we'll let that fly.
Mm-hmm.
That boardroom is still all old white men by the end of that film.
I can't remember if they're all white men, but they are certainly old men.
I'm pretty sure they're all white men. I'm pretty sure it's all white men.
I don't remember. But it is certainly a commentary on Mattel.
It is perhaps more of a commentary than it wants to be at times.
Yeah, but it was very popular.
Yeah.
And I hope it encourages more young people to learn about all of the problems that it's kind of tackling.
Yeah, go learn about the woman who invented Barbie and the whole tax thing that went on there with her being pushed out
the car. Which is sort of casually thrown away.
Yeah, a fun fact. There was a push... She got breast cancer, had a mastectomy, they tried to push her out of the company, she tried to do tax fraud to get back into the company. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
That Mattel does not like to talk about and did make it into that film.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, because you are sort of left with, well, no, do talk about that, because she just sort of casually, offhandedly mentions it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Ruth, cool. Yeah, it's a fun experience.
It's a fun film. You know, you can
very my first feminism.
Yeah,
but...
you can point out that it's my first feminism at points, but then also 5 minutes into that film, they're making the legal case that corporations should not have the rights of people as they currently do, and should not be able to use legal personhood as a legal argument.
Right?
And I'm like,
you're not wrong.
Baby's first feminism has occasionally really fucking solid, quite advanced points.
Some solid anti-capitalism here. I'm enjoying that. Yeah. Yeah. Enjoy. Did you watch anything else?
I think that's really it for me. We watched other bits, but nothing too consequential, I don't think.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hey, Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you need like a life thing for stress and stuff? You know, one of those.
I mean, I have been told I seem like I run a little anxious, but I can't imagine it's that big a problem. You know?
Well, it's not one of the ones that gamifies it. So
okay.
That's maybe something that will be a pro or a con for you.
Oh, well, we'll see.
This week's sponsor is deepbreath.lol.net.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, it's an app that will monitor your heart rate.
Okay.
And it reminds you to take a deep, calming breath if you seem stressed.
Okay, well, let me pop on the thing that measures the heart rate, and okay, the thing's going off already. Okay, deep breath. Deep breath.
It seems to be getting louder.
Yeah, it's not slowing down. It's constant. What? That's concerning.
I don't think that's how that's supposed to work. No, that sounds like you're hyperventilating.
I'm deep breathing, goddammit!
Yeah! So that's deepbreath.lol.net, enter the code Q&PS 289, and you too will find that just some fucking yoga and deep breathing isn't actually going to help your anxiety problems that are, genuine problems, and maybe the kind of people who tell you to just try yoga or a hot bath should fuck off. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been thinking.
Right.
I keep hearing stories bubbling up from downstairs. The people who share these stories, we track them down, we fire them. But I keep hearing from people working downstairs that, we here in the development floor are the most oppressed people in the company.
How?
We the minorities working at the company are the most oppressed people at the company.
How? They have a whole floor. They have a whole floor. They have these vending machines that we give them a modest discount on.
You know, well, they say, oh, we're underpaid, we're overworked, you know, there are discriminatory hiring practices that mean that people from certain backgrounds can't keep jobs or are the first ones to get fired when firings happen, blah, 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 blah.
There's so many extra hours they could be working.
Right, you know, we're doing them a favor by giving them more free time, you know, but I've been thinking about this. I keep hearing this and keep weeding the people out, but I think we need to make a stand. I think we need to make it clear to the people working at this company who the most oppressed employees here are. Us, the executive class. Yes, of course. Because, you know, we have to carry the burden of leadership. We have to carry the burden of, you know, occasionally having to leave our golf game early to come back because, you know, someone needs firing. You know, we can't leave it till tomorrow in case, you know, they talk or something.
Our floor has windows, so, you know, we have to stand by them looking pensive.
We have to occasionally put on sunscreen, you know, in case the sun, you know, too much sun through the window.
You don't have to do that. They're coated.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to tell them we need to do that because, you know, that sounds like we're experiencing more hardship.
And it will help them stop complaining about the lack of windows.
Exactly. But, you know, not only do we have to carry the burden of leadership and, you know, we're only allowed like 18 holidays a year. You know, that's I can't imagine less than that existing anywhere in the world.
Right.
And all we get in return is money. Like we don't have you know, subsidized vending machines up on this floor. You know, we only, you know, have
one throws us a pizza party.
Yeah, you know, we have to order our own pizza using the money we earned from our big executive salaries. We don't get free pizza.
You know, all the times we petty cashed pizza.
Well,
made by our own executive chefs.
Yeah, but like, you know, that's for special occasions. Like we signed a form.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or on a Wednesday.
Forms are hard.
Forms are hard. I got to write my name down like on every single one of them that happens.
And I can't use the same pen twice. So,
right. I have to find more pens. You know. No one has it worse here.
No one. Not one person.
Not one.
You know, I think this calls for a gold-encrusted pizza party.
I agree. You are a fucking genius.
I know. As are you. An oppressed genius. So, what have you put in your ears?
Oh, I've not put a lot in my ears. We put some music in our ears together. We had a little New Year's Eve.
We did. We had a little New Year's
wiggle.
Whoop. Listen to a lot of trance.
Am I correct that you have some of the music-y bits?
Of the music-y bits written down.
What music did we listen to on the New Year?
We listened to David Starfire, Sitarfire, the Govinda mix. Fox Stevenson Double Up, Talpa White Clouds, the Utopia mix. Clean Air by the JFB remix. I can't remember who that's originally by, and I apparently forgot to write it down in the show notes. We listened to just a lot of random trance mixes, psytrance mixes on Mixcloud. I unfortunately did not get the names of most of those. I think we listened to a whole bunch of John 00 Fleming mixes.
I wouldn't be surprised if we did, given the friends
those
we were with.
People who very much like John Fleming.
Yeah.
Also, I briefly was going to mention the Forteller app, but we talked about that during Played, which was always a risk.
Yeah.
It is broken, but mostly it works, and when it does work, it's great. They'll fix it, hopefully, and if they don't, I'll keep shouting at them. We listened to that. I have been mainlining Dice Funk now that I know that season 10 is done.
Is it done? Yep, the second post-mortem went up this past weekend.
Yeah, let's see if I can work out where I am. I'm at episode 39, which I think is like... Is it... Yeah, I think it's like 42 episodes in
Maybe? Do you know roughly what's happening?
Peace talks are just starting.
Oh, yeah, you are very near the end of season 10 of Dice Funk.
Done some power moves in the last few sessions. We had the big fight against all the mind witnesses.
Yep.
Which was just a fascinating concept, and the way that was all set up. And then, last episode, Austin managed to get the fucking theme music in as a poem.
Yeah.
As the credits faded out.
Yeah.
You shatterhead. That was beautiful, but also like I was like, Austin. Yeah,
it was just too good of a fit.
I have. That has been, I think, the best season for a while. No offense.
No, none taken. Look, we're doing a show that's essentially an anthology series with rotating casts, rotating settings, rotating mechanics. Some of them are going to be more to people's taste than others. Genuinely, season 10 has been one of my favourite seasons as a player to be on.
So much came together between players and plot and the two DMs who did wonderfully.
I was really, looking back on season 10, I was a little nervous and shaky during my first act as DM, but I think by the time the second away arc was happening, I was like, I'm feeling it. I've hit me stride. I've gotten over the initial wobbles of I'm telling half of this story, and if I fuck up, it fucks up Austin's story. And I'm really happy with how season 10 came together.
It's great. I'm looking forward to finishing the last few bits, and it's been sort of fun to have that to listen to, because it's been sort of like off my map for about 3 years.
The 2 DM setup was really, really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would want to DM a weekly Dice Funk campaign by myself, but being able to offhand it back and forth with someone else and sort of do that collaborative structure really, really worked well for me.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I think really struck me listening to this, knowing that you were recording an episode on Tuesday night and an episode on Thursday night, one home team, one away team, and then playing them back as here's all of the home team of one arc, here's all of the away team of one arc, and the fact that they played so well. It wasn't noticeable that the different teams were running at completely different times and different stuff was going on. And you were running the whole thing and then ended up months ahead of yourselves.
Yeah, when one arc was being recorded, we didn't know how the other arc was going to end, despite the fact that one arc would have ended by the time you heard the other one.
Yep.
And me and Austin didn't talk a huge amount about what the other was doing before we did it. And we still managed
to have some sort of vague theme crossovers a couple of times.
We had some really nice accidental synergy between arcs.
Yeah.
It was just a really nice process, and it all came. I'm glad that not only did all of the away team members' arcs come together successfully, but then the away and home teams merged and came together successfully as one story.
It was great.
It was a real run.
It was great. I'm looking forward to finishing that, and then I don't know what I'm going to do, because I won't have that much Dice Funk to listen to.
Yeah, season 11, it is happening. I think we've got the first home and the first away arc recorded, and are starting on the second arc for each team. So we're at least 6 weeks ahead still of what's being heard, and that's only going to pick up steam again. You know, we took a couple months off, and now we're just going to go Dice Funk again.
Dice Funk, do.
It's fine. I can give you the secret cuts early if you want more Dice Funk to listen to. You can listen to the drink cuts, as they're called, which is the roughly thrown together cuts so one team can hear what the others was up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well then.
Time for this.
Meow.
Well, hi, hey kitty.
Meow. Meow. Meow.
Oh, sorry, kitty. That's just the tortillas for dinner.
Meow.
Hi, you're being very affectionate right now. Is it because there's a rustly packet? I see. Okay, I've tried to explain this to you before. I'm going to try really hard. You've got to focus. Not every rustly packet is kitty food.
Rustly packet is kitty food. Yes.
No. Some rustly packets are not kitty food.
Rustly packets, kitty food. Yes.
No. You see this one? You see how this looks nothing like kitty food? It's big circles of tortilla.
Kitty will try.
No, look. It's like when I got the Skittles out, and I take them out of the rustly packet, and you smell them, and they're not. You see, they're not kitty food, despite having come out of the rustly packet. No, it's not good, is it? Yeah, it's not.
That one?
No, it's the same one. It's the same one again.
That one's green.
Yeah, they're not kitty food. That's what I'm explaining.
Hello.
Yeah, okay, I'm putting these away. Not every...
What about the purple one?
No, they're all not kitty food.
Oh, it could be purple kitty food.
They're not, none of them are kitty food.
Oh, but why am Radley pack it if it's not kitty food?
Because not every food in the world that's rustly is kitty food.
Okay. Gonna check out the rusty packet in the bathroom with the white torpedoes on it.
Hey, I know I don't know you super well, but we've been really getting on, I thought.
Yeah, totally. Like, you're like my first friend in this town. It's been really hard after the move, you know?
Totally, and I cherish that.
So, what's up?
Well, I noticed that you vanished for a few days around the time of the full moon.
Oh, you see...
I followed you last night, to that old stone building in the middle of nowhere.
You did? I can explain.
I heard some really weird noises in there, and this morning after you left, I saw that chain bolted onto the wall.
I should...
It's okay. I know what you are, and I'm totally okay with it. You're a werewolf.
Padlock.
Wait, so what?
A were padlock. I go and bolt myself onto the chain, and the transformation's noisy, obviously, because turning all my bones into a padlock.
I mean, I'm still okay with it. I have questions, but I will respectfully hold them back. I'm glad you're okay.
I'm okay, but, you know, padlockrathy does affect a number of people. You know, I was bitten by... I caught my finger in a padlock when I was learning to pick them as a young child, and that's sort of how it got me, and now I can't really responsibly have kids because they'll be firstborn wear padlocks, and there's just a whole weird thing with that.
Uh-huh. You learn something new every day.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Social justice warriors?
Yeah.
Alright, mate. How you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm doing alright. How you doing?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, not too bad. You been up to much? You had a good UDP? Had a good New Year?
A lovely one. I got some good rest. It was very well needed.
Nice,
yourself?
Well, you know, it was a lot of social, and you know, I feel like in the last few years I have perhaps got out of the habit of big social, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think.
You know, did my best, and it was obviously lovely to see people, but you know, nice to have a bit of a rest at least. You know, feeling a bit more refreshed, less immediately close to burnout than I was.
I know the feeling well.
Yeah. You been up to much, mate?
Well, you know, I did have to briefly pop to the doctors recently.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
You know, it went all right. You know, it's yeah. You ever have those experiences where you go to the doctor and for whatever reason they just kind of discount your experience? You know, don't take it as seriously as they maybe should do.
Yeah, you know, I've had a few times where, you know, doctors will bring up things like, you know, oh, you heard a thing about that matched your symptoms on TikTok or whatever, and you're self-diagnosing, and some doctors really don't like the idea that you've, you know, looked into a problem you've maybe had all your life and haven't really had a name for and assumed was a universal experience, and then, you know, you go to them and be like, I think I might have EDS or whatever, and they'll be like, oh no, don't diagnose yourself just because of things you saw online. Well, no, that's why I'm here, to get, you know, maybe further information looked at, you know, and some doctors, they do really get quite the gob complex, especially the older ones.
There's, you know, I understand a certain degree of, just because, you know, WebMD was a problem for a while. You know, be convincing themselves they had cancer and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that WebMD, you type your symptoms in and almost everything will eventually lead to you're imminently going to have a heart attack and, terminal disease.
I get it from that perspective from doctors, but also, like, there is a real degree of, like, I know better than you. Don't try and be a doctor and like, look up your symptoms and learn what might be a good starting point to look at. That's my job. Fuck off.
Yeah.
But as much as that can suck, I think it's particularly, there's a lot of groups it's particularly bad for in terms of not having, their insights on their body or their experience, own experience of their pain taken properly.
Oh yeah, I've heard some really fucking horrible stories recently. Not least, the ones I've heard for years and years and years ago. Women who've or uterus havers in general who have been to their GP and complained of various pains and been ignored. Oh, nothing. You need to exercise more, or you need to get more iron, or you need to maybe consider doing some yoga. And things of that sort. And, they've been in pain, they've been suffering for years and years and years. Like, undiagnosed endometriosis, because you wouldn't fucking pay any attention to it.
Yeah. And then you've got, you've got young people who are often, a lot of, if a health condition that's associated with being older happens in someone younger, they'll say their symptoms to the doctor.
Arthritis.
Yeah, it'll be like, well, whatever thing you think you've got, that only happens to old people, doesn't happen to people your age.
Far too young to worry about stomach cancer. The fact that you've constantly been agonising and in pain, and you've been talking about like peptic issues and constant stomach acid issues, and regular pains, and then by the time you do get diagnosed, it's perhaps too late. And I've heard a bunch of those stories recently, and it is devastating to them, to their families, to people around them.
Yeah.
And this even happens to people working in the medical community. You get nurses going, well, I know my own body. I've been working in the medical profession for years. I know what things to look out for. And I went to my GP and they completely ignored me until I was basically terminal.
Yeah, you see it a lot with non-white people as well, who will very much get their experiences of pain, not taken seriously. Very, very specifically, you will have, there is an unfortunate history of medical science deciding that, non-white people feel pain differently.
Well, yeah, it doesn't help that most of the medical journals that were written by horrible racists who were like, well, we'll do all of these tests, experimental surgeries on black women, mostly African American women, because a lot of these things happened in America. And it's just like, they don't feel any pain. Their skin is thicker.
And it was clearly a justification for what they were doing, but it's had this weird knock-on effect of certain doctors just assume that pain is different depending on race in ways that can really fuck up access to medical care.
Oh yeah, the thick skin thing as well. Black people have thicker skin than Caucasians, and therefore you'll have to do injections differently and things like that, and it's absolute bullshit, and medical racism is a huge problem, and as well as ageism and fat phobia and misogyny.
Fat phobia, indeed. The number of people who were told, well, I know that you think you're having whatever symptoms. Go for a run, lose some weight, and we'll see if you still think you've got, arthritis or whatever.
Yeah, and then you hear these stories about people who lost weight to the point where they were, severely malnourished, and the doctors were still taking issues with their weight, or finally managing to give them a diagnosis for something much more serious. That if treated many years earlier, when they first started complaining about the issue, would have been entirely curable or much more manageable than they are at the time that they finally were willing to take a proper look at things. And ultimately, I just wish doctors would listen to their patients.
Yeah.
Well, fancy hug, mate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good hug, mate. Good hug.
Good hug.
Right, I think I'll go put the kettle on.
Well, that sounds like a plan.
Nice.
So Laura,
Yes.
you do things.
I do.
Do you remember?
things.
Do you remember you do things?
I do stuff. I
Yeah?
know it's been a couple of weeks, but I remember I do
But
stuff.
the people would like to know where they can find those things.
Well, you can find those things at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon. That's the one that pays us bills. As little as $1 a month over there really helps. Or whatever your local currency is, because you can pay in whatever currency. Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the places. Just find me wherever. On Twitch, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 PM UK, 5 PM Eastern, 2 PM Pacific. I'm currently doing a playthrough of Like a Dragon, Gaiden the Man Who Erased His Name, because Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is coming out at the end of this month. Access Ability, episodes usually every Friday, over on YouTube. There will be one this, it'll be up the week that we're recording this, so if you're listening early, it might not be up yet. If you're listening on the regular release date, it will be up. That is a half-hour conversation between me and Arevia talking about PTSD and video game accessibility. So that'll be cool. That'll be up by the time this goes out, probably. Yeah, just Laura K. Buzz. You'll find all the things I do. What about you?
Me? Well, I'm just a little bean who doesn't have that unified branding, but I do have a link tree to make it all work. It's linkter.ee/Janiac, Janiac. You can find all the things I've written, the music I've made, T-shirts are designed, all sorts of good stuff. You can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify all of the works and the inability to play Baldur's Gate 3. You can do all of that thing. Obviously, it's been the winter's time, so everything slows down a little bit over on Patreon. So if anyone's feeling generous, or at least if not, then maybe you do a share. Tell people about us, because it's always nice to find new people who are enjoying the thing, because we appreciate all of the people, all of you for listening for, gosh, nearly 5 years now at this point. Yeah, thank you very much. Laura?
Yeah?
Will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.